Welcome back to Boom and Bust. I'm your host, Tony Clement, carrying on this conversation with Dr. Colleen Collins. She is the Vice President of the Canada West Foundation. Colleen, just switching gears a little bit, I notice in the reports that are issued by the Canada West Foundation, a lot of your research has to do with trade flows, specifically China, the second biggest economy in the world, and the impacts of sort of recent economic trends in China, which are different. May be interesting to our viewers. Why don't you give us your insights in the Canada-China trade flows and what's happening in China?
Sure. It wasn't very long ago that the discussion about Canada-China trade flows was really about how do we diversify our export markets. And we were so dependent on the United States. They're our biggest trading partner. They always will, given how close we are. But we also need to know that, every country has its own interests. And we do face some bumps in the road with trade with the United States. Softwood lumber comes to mind as an ongoing trade irritant. And so, the growth as China's economy has taken off, Canada's exports to China have followed suit. China is no different than any other trading partner. We cannot be over-reliant on any one trading partner. And so the time has come really with China and with the growing middle class in the Indo-Pacific to look at alternative markets to China. One of the things that we say is, you can run away from China, but you really can't escape China. So China has influence throughout the Indo-Pacific, throughout the BRIC countries. So we can't ignore China. We need to manage our relations with China. We need to align our interests. China, one of the really big things that motivates China is they have a large population to feed. They are not self-sufficient on food or energy. And so China is going to be a player in world markets going forward regardless. So the idea is, how do we best manage our relations with China, recognizing that we have areas where our interests align? So, for example, Canada has a really strong reputation in the world as a supplier of food, and we've never limited that supply of food. So, even in the darkest days of relations with China, Canada continued to ship grain when other countries did not. And so Canada has that kind of a relationship that we can be a very trusted and reliable supplier. The situation now is, China is diversifying its suppliers.
Right.
And so that means Canada really does need to look to other markets. The Indo-Pacific strategy is a good strategy. It's a way to not decouple from China completely, but a way to expand Canada's footprint in the Indo-Pacific in a way that will open doors, that will develop markets, but will also help us to survive in those markets. So it's great to sign trade agreements. The Trans-Pacific Partnership has been a brilliant agreement for Canada, especially after the United States walked away from it. It left us in a great position. But we also have to consider that trade agreements are one thing, but it's surviving the trade agreements that's important. And so how do we reduce those kinds of challenges that come from non-tariff barriers?
Gotcha.
How do we build in relationships that can help our markets? So, for example, how do we help our markets deal with quality of our products, with testing for things that shouldn't be in those products, looking for waste or looking for pests, so that we can be more, we can head off those problems before they arise. We've just seen this with India and peas and lentils to India.
Right.
So these relationships all need constant tending, nurturing, and hopefully that's how we'll be able to use the Indo-Pacific strategy to both thrive and survive in those really challenging export markets.
Very interesting discussion. Colleen, we're out of time. I really appreciate your attendance here today. Very interesting and best of success with your continued operations at the Canada West Foundation.
Thank you.